Kevin has joined the building.
He's there.
We just went live, Kevin. Just as I said, we're going to go live, and Kevin will join us just as we go live, and there he is.
I am live. I have returned the prodigal son and Kevin Allen both.
Exactly, he is back. And, you got to tilt your camera down a little bit, because we were joking around about the bobbleheads that each of us would be, and yours would be, like, from here up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So,
Kevin, you missed it because yesterday Eck was horizontal for a few minutes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh
no!
No!
You lost you for a second.
What?
No, Kevin's back. You there, Kevin?
Yeah, I didn't know I was gone. Was I gone?
Everything just froze for a second.
Okay, yeah, no, I saw it because I was at Russ. Did you put it on Facebook? Somebody put it on Facebook.
I did. I think I transferred it to Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. So I saw that you took a tumble, and then I saw was one of those chairs that's supposed to save your back, right?
Yeah.
My daughter has one of those. So.
Almost killed me. Yeah.
It saves your back, but it ruins your neck.
Right. I mean, there's no question that what I did on it yesterday is not good for your back. Like I'll sort of reenact it for everybody because.
No, please don't.
Don't
reenact it. What happened? So here's my chair. Okay, this is my chair. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's a ball, wheels, right, everything. So what happened yesterday? That is the most
bizarre-looking chair I've ever seen in my life.
So as I'm talking on it yesterday, it's like this, but it's leaning forward like this, probably a little bit, right? So I'm sitting on it and I'm pushing it forward, and I feel it like it's leaning forward. I'm like, yeah, I possibly couldn't do and it goes like this. This thing goes shooting back this way, and before you know it, I'm on the ground. So all good stuff.
That's not funny at all.
Not funny at all.
No, it's really not funny.
It's one of our highest-rated podcasts ever. Just letting you guys know that you guys apparently enjoy my pain.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
It would have only been a great story if you had fallen off that and somehow fixed your back.
Right. It's actually feeling pretty good today. The funny thing about it is that actually my back has I went to this new bed. I got this mattress. Somebody said you got to try this. They sent it to me. It came in like a box that was like the size of a shoebox. It's a king size mattress. You opened it up and it was like, boom, it just went, and it opened up, and then formed into this 6 layers of foam type mattress. And I'm telling you what, the last 2 nights I slept on it, and it has been phenomenal. My back feels so much better. So for what it's worth, it is absolutely working. It's the strangest thing. And it's cool because I'm a person who gets up a lot in the middle of the night. Like I get it. If I can't sleep, I'll go work. I just don't like to lay there, right? So I'm I used to wake up my wife every time I would get out of bed. Now this bed is it's such that nothing I could I could play bongos on my side of the bed and she wouldn't feel it. So it's good. Good thing. So yeah, I'm feeling better about that. So anyway,
good to hear that.
No falls today. I think I'm secure. I feel happy. I'm psyched. On the ball, as they say, and ready to go. We had a really interesting discussion yesterday that we ended the show with, so I'm going to start there. But let's first go to the date, which is Hello Hockey World. It is Thursday, December 10th, 2015.
Whatever you say, it's whatever you say it is. Actually.
Damn straight, Kevin. Thank you.
I really like that. I feel you should always take that position.
I agree.
It is every day I say it is.
It is definitely. And yes, so it is going to go again Thursday, December 10th, 2015.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Kevin Allen of USA Today.
And I'm Eklund, sitting comfortably and securely. You're watching HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday around 1 o'clock. We kind of fill you in on what's going on in the hockey world. And before we get into some of the interesting topics today we're talking about, we want to talk a little more Carlisle from yesterday. I have some more things to add to that. We had a really good debate yesterday at the end of the show, and Mike, why don't you bring up what was happening? We couldn't continue on, but it would be a perfect one to start with today.
Well, Ack did the NHL Draft Lottery Simulator, and it came up Edmonton, which I know Mike Brophy in the Hockey News wrote an article a few days ago saying that Edmonton should be banned from getting the number 1 pick, but we know that's not going to happen. But if they did, and obviously with Auston Matthews being the presumptive number 1 pick, I floated out, what if Arizona offered Oliver Ekman-Larsson to the Oilers for the number 1 pick? Would Edmonton do it, and I think they would.
Yeah.
I think they would. I just don't think Arizona would do it.
Okay, so and Russ doesn't think they would at all.
Well, I wouldn't do it. Whether they would or not, that's another story. But to me, it's just Boulder Dash. It is, because how many years left is
language, Russ. Watch it. This is a kid's show.
How many years left on Ekman Larson's deal? Did anybody look that up?
I'll look it up right now.
Look it up, because that's a factor. You know, Austin Matthews could be the prototypical guy to take the NHL into the next millennium. Not to say he's Sidney Crosby, but that type of player with that size, with the speed, who's really hard to hold back, who can crash the net, but also has skill and finesse. And so now you're potentially like, you know how Jerry West is the logo for the NBA? Austin Matthews, for all we know, could be the logo for the NHL for the next 20 years.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson has 3 more years after this year at $5.5 million.
Right, and then after that, then they're going to have to sign Ekman-Larsson to like $8.5 million a year for like 7 years, right?
But he'll only be 28 years old at the end of that contract.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm just saying, now you've lost your cost certainty. You definitely gained a terrific player, really great player. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. I really would not do it. I understand the need for defense. I will trade some of my other parts to get defense. I may not get Ekman-Larsson, but if Klefbom is who I think he is, and I don't know if he is, then I don't really need Ekman-Larsson. I just need a bunch of other guys, and so I'm not doing it.
Okay, Kevin.
Well, the other argument not to do it is, you know, the same thing that I said when you got Connor McDavid and everybody was yelling and screaming that they should move immediately and move all those guys. I think you got to wait and see what you have. Like, the argument for the Oilers would be you take Austin Matthews, get him in the camp, see who he plays well with, and then make your decisions. I mean, it's the same thing we're seeing now. Like, now is the time for the Oilers to make a move. It wasn't last summer. Right. Now they have a better handle on, you know, how the players are reacted to Connor McDavid, what he can be. We've seen him in NHL games. Now I think they're in a better position to make moves. Plus, they've seen Draisaitl play, and to me, I'm more convinced now that, like Mike was saying the other day, that it is time for them to say, look, we've tried to change the management and coaches, thinking maybe that was the issue, that we were just too Edmonton Oilers old guard centric.
Right.
But it really hasn't had the impact. Although saying that, they have played better of late.
Yeah.
So now, you know, now I think you're much more comfortable moving, in my opinion, Everly or Yakupov or Nugent Hopkins, because you kind of know where you're at now. And that's probably what would stop them, just like Russ said, from trading Austin Matthews. You don't quite know exactly how it's all going to work when he shows up. So, you know, rather than make that trade before the draft, you draft Austin Matthews and then see what your options are. Because to be honest with you, you'd probably do a lot better than Ekman-Larsson if you had decided to trade him in the open market.
Right. I mean, you could get definitely probably a draft pick or two as well. I mean, I think Ekman-Larsson, that's a pretty good return. I mean, he's an all-star defenseman. He's obviously a number one defenseman. He's something that Edmonton doesn't have.
Yeah, and you're getting him at 25. I mean, all the we've made the the comparative, or the talked about a possible Shea Weber deal to Edmonton and how that might make sense. Well, Shea Weber's 30, or maybe he's 31. I think he's 30. And the thing is, not to say he's over the hill, because I think he's still in his prime, but he's probably not going to be in his prime in, say, a couple years. Whereas Oliver Ekman-Larsson is 25 years old, is probably got 5-6 years at least of top-flight hockey before he starts to decline. So that's within the window of when Edmonton should be competitive with the players that they have. So to me, it makes more sense to make a deal for Ekman-Larsson and trade somebody that is not even a part of your team right now, rather than trading pieces off of that team like Eberle and Yakupov, where they could be dealt for something that would probably be more consequential or help them more. I just think that Ekman-Larsson would be a great fit for that team.
I agree. I know that obviously the Coyotes love Ekman-Larsson, but if given the option of Ekman-Larsson or local homegrown superstar, I think you got to go with local homegrown superstar. I mean, Kevin, you don't think they would make the trade?
Well, I didn't when you first said it because I just felt, they've got to do something now. Like, they can't keep this, okay, well, we're going to rebuild. But the more that we've started to talk about it, I've started to think, look at the impact that Connor McDavid had on Edmonton right away. Look at Dylan Larkin. So maybe the game is changing. So,
Matthews is a pro right now.
Yeah, he really is.
And add that to the mix of Domi, Duclair, Dylan Strome, Christian Dvorak. I mean, you've got a really good young crop of forwards there that if you add Matthews to it, that team could turn around very quickly.
Yeah, but you're assuming this trade. I think they would definitely have to get more, but there's no way I would ever do it.
Yeah, and I'm starting, the more we talk about it, the more I'm starting to lean to Russ, just for the reasons I said. I think it would be hard. I think they could actually do better than Ekman Larson, to be sure. I mean, you'd get so much for him. And the other argument for it is, and I know Russ can verify this, you can take an average defenseman and through good coaching you can make him above average.
Yep.
But you cannot take an average forward and make him an above average forward.
No, that's for sure.
Because defensemen are, it's all about technique and knowledge and
footwork and gap control and all
that kind of stuff. So, Ekman Larson, although Ekman Larson's skill level is unique because puck carriers are in a different breed.
Especially that age, puck carriers. I mean, he's a perfect age for Edmonton.
But then he's going to be a UFA in 4 years. You've got to now figure out where's my cap going to be. Well, you say that. But
I agree with you. But with Edmonton, I mean, that's like saying, that Edmonton could put ketchup on their hot dog. I mean, there's so much stuff with Edmonton going on that 4 years from now with Ekman Larson seems like, I mean, really does that.
4 years from now, Draisaitl's going to need a deal, and some of these other young guys.
I know, but in that period of time, you have other defensemen for sure that are coming up, and at least you solidify some position that you haven't been able to solidify at all for 4 years. I mean,
I can do it for a lot less cost.
And 3 years from now, Everly and Benoit Pouliot's contracts drop off at the same time that if they traded for Ekman Larson, I mean, there's your pay raise right there. If those two players drop off, or if you trade them for younger prospects, you have the money. I mean, they're going to have to pay McDavid. I mean, 3 years down the line, McDavid's going to be signed to an 8-year extension. They're going to sign him for his, for probably $8-9 million. So you're going to have to make room for that. What's that?
Probably $10 million.
Yeah, probably 10. If he does what we think he can do based on the limited window we've seen him, but there's going to be monies that open up, and they can move other players out. So I think it's feasible, but we're just theorizing here.
I think we're brilliant. I think we are brilliant, and I think this is going to happen because I think this is why I think we're brilliant, and this is going to happen because I think I'm going to save this point in this show right now as for 2 days in a row. Moments you should watch and remember about, because just like me falling off the chair, I really feel like this is a premonition talking, Mike. Because you know for sure if Edmonton wins that lottery, that this will be the first thing that is talked about because
it'll be talked about.
No, and remember that there was. I mean, Maloney has dabbled in things before. He tried. I really firmly believe he tried last year to make a move happen. He didn't quite, or at least he talked to people. You never know for sure. But I think that this is just with everything that's going on in that franchise, they need this kid so badly there that I can't imagine it not happening.
But in the tightened up cap era, they don't trade the first overall pick anymore. It doesn't happen.
When you have 5 other first overall picks though that you have to deal in the cap era with, I think you do.
No, and that's why you trade those guys. You don't trade this guy.
Kevin, go ahead.
But you know what? This would be like an Eric Lindros trade. This would be Ekman Larson. This would be Ekman Larson, Domi, their first round pick next year.
I mean that much?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This. The more I'm starting to sort of think about this, because first of all, they're going to know that Arizona desperately wants him, and there are going to be a lot of teams like Matthews. Like Crawford said to me in an email that he had never seen a player like him that age who's dominant and can build speed through the neutral zone, and he's already he moved right into the Swiss league and was a dominant player.
Defensemen can't hold him back, and the way this NHL is, it's gonna be nearly impossible.
All right, so what does it take? Does it take Ekman-Larsson and their first-round pick?
Yeah, I think it takes more than that. Yeah,
more than that.
But I just don't know that it's going to get done. I think they would. As I said, the more I thought about it, the more I think Edmonton would, just like Russ said, they would draft him and then decide what they were going to do, because they could get a lot for Everly, and Yakupov, and Nugent Hopkins. I mean, I think if you're going to build, you'd rather build based on what we've seen now. Wouldn't you rather build around Connor McDavid, Matthews, Draisaitl, and Hall, and move everybody else out?
Yep.
Take those 4 guys and say,
right,
I'm build around those guys, and everybody else is going to go. We'll start over from defense and
right. No, I could see that. Russ, but say the Phoenix has the 3rd pick in the draft.
Right, that's where I was going.
And then there's who's the best defenseman coming out next year? Russ, is there a dominant defenseman?
Well, it's Jacob Chikrin. I mean, he's the best one.
Right, so he's available. Edmonton knows they can get him and Ekman-Larsson for this pick for Austin Matthews.
Yeah,
but he's not dominant to the point where they're going to go crazy like that and say, okay, this is a great concession. I know there's been the Ekblad talk about him as far as he looks like him. Comparison, I don't see it yet.
Right.
And maybe that'll happen, but I don't think so. So because of that, I don't think they would do that.
I think the likelihood of this type of deal happening would all depend on where Arizona finishes. If they have a top 5 pick, then a deal like the pick and Ekman-Larsson to move up 4 slots would enable Edmonton to get a top flight player plus an all-star defenseman. I mean, I theorized in a blog a couple months ago that if Arizona finished in the top 5 and the Leafs won the lottery, that the Leafs would do Arizona's first and Dylan Strome for the number 1 pick, because it would benefit them, it would put Strome and Marner together, and it would benefit Arizona to have the hometown boy playing for them. I think it would be a no-lose for both teams, but we're theorizing.
Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews on the same team. Let's talk about that for a second. So if they're on the same team moving forward, okay?
I mean, that's Malkin and Crosby in their prime.
Right, it's Malkin and Crosby, right? So there you're looking at, and look where that's gotten the Penguins. I got him a Stanley Cup, but look where
it got up to 2 cups.
Yeah, it did, but they got him to 2 cups because of a lot of other complementary factors they also had back then. But now they're in a situation where they are, right? I mean,
you can make that case about any players.
No, I know I'm playing a little devil's advocate here, but I'm saying that there's definitely.
And guess what? They could also be out of that situation with better math. Here's the other thing too. Before we even move to that, like there's a kid, Charlie McAvoy, who I like a lot in this draft, right? If I'm Edmonton, why don't I just wait him out? How do I know he's not going to be close enough to what Ekman-Larsson is to even bother making this trade?
Because it's a known commodity, Russ. That's why it's a known commodity.
It's not known enough. He's not Bobby Orr.
Because defensemen are 3 or 4 years away, and Edmonton can't afford another couple of years like this. I mean, Edmonton has to get good next year. They need to get good now, and the only reason they're getting away with not getting good now is because of this McDavid injury. If this McDavid injury wasn't the case, there would be absolute bedlam in Edmonton. They would.
You think Matthews and McDavid wouldn't make them better?
Of course, it's going to make them better, but they still don't have a defense.
I know, but they'll be able to deal for at least some better.
It would also put Bill Daly and Gary Bettman in intensive care if they got the number 1 pick.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, can you imagine if you're Bettman and I mean, would anyone blame the NHL for fixing this? I mean, just away from Edmonton. I mean, not saying anywhere else, but it would be great to have him in Phoenix. I get you can't do that, whatever. You can't have him in Arizona, but man, I mean, I want to see Daly's expression on his face when he turns over the card at the draft lottery.
Well, I'm pleading ignorance here, but here's the unknown factor. If Edmonton got the number 1 pick and Arizona was floating something like this, would there be any kind of subtle pressure on a part of the league to say, "Hey, Edmonton, they're offering you a good offer here, and this can help out the franchise"?
They can't do that. I mean,
there'll be tons of publicity either way, and that's all the NHL would care about in the end because everybody would be talking about it.
Yeah, but the publicity can we sit there and honestly say that the publicity from Connor McDavid going to Edmonton is all the NHL wanted out of this thing? I mean, yes, for a couple of weeks we argued about the fact that Connor McDavid, but now we haven't. And
he got shown on ESPN, so I would argue yes.
Versus a guy going to a city where he can.
However, Ekman-Larsson doesn't get shown on ESPN.
No, but Russ, the point is that if
Yeah.
Connor McDavid had gone to Arizona, or if he had gone to a bigger market team, I think the coverage of him would be exponentially more than what he has been getting in Edmonton. He's getting coverage, on Sportsnet or on Hockey Night in Canada because he's on a Canadian-based team. But I haven't picked up on any more higher or greater coverage because
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I totally disagree.
Yeah,
That-
you can do that one.
ESPN had him on. Are you kidding me?
for a while in the first 2 weeks of NBC Sports Network, I thought he was the only player in the league.
Yeah, yeah,
People in the United States actually know who he is.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I'm not buying that one. I'm selling on that, Mike.
Yep. All right, so let's move on. But this is going to be a topic we're going to talk about a lot. It's going to be an interesting topic. It's so exciting to me that we have a player like this coming into the league next year. And I am really kind of surprised that there has been no talk at any of these Board of Governors meetings about some kind of rule about how many times you can get the first overall pick in a period of time. Like, I don't understand why that has not been brought up.
I think that. Go ahead, Russ.
I was going to say, but how could you do that? I mean, there are people who win the lottery multiple times, 2 and 3 times in real life.
It has been discussed. I know that for sure.
Okay, it has been.
Yeah, it has been discussed, but it's been sort of dismissed as being, really undemocratic. It's just not the way, you can't just limit someone, just because everyone's weary of seeing them.
I mean, can you imagine? So on draft day, they're going to say, and they turn over the card. Oh, it's the Edmonton Oilers. All right, well, we're going to go to the next card because Edmonton's had the first round pick too many times, and they'll get the second pick.
No, just if you get a first round pick one year, your odds are decreased the next year by a little bit or something. But
see, the thing is, Zach, is that the new method. I mean,
Actually did that.
Yeah, I mean,
it gave other teams below them a better chance.
Right,
this
exactly.
is like the equivalent of if we gave the All-Star game randomly out and it came to the same city every year. We need publicity in different cities. We need different people. And the NHL can make a marketing argument that the first pick overall can go to different cities.
I know a certain market who hasn't had the number 1 pick since 1985.
There you have it.
Wait, think about this though for a minute, Ek. You're looking at it from like the greater good kind of thing, and I get it. But the greater good's already going on. I had to wait, I want to say 3 weeks to get an interview with Austin Matthews. Kevin probably didn't have to wait because he's Kevin. He wrote a feature on him. I've got one coming out. He's not even playing here yet.
I know.
And we're already covering him.
Oh, and I know. And believe me, I think there's no question that, I mean, like Mike, when you said he would get more publicity if he was in Phoenix, I don't think he would. McDavid. I mean, I think the fact he's a Canadian team has given him so much publicity, and more than it would Phoenix. Okay, so
there were 100 guys at the combine for Connor McDavid.
Right.
That was the most by far for people that had been to the combine every year. They were like, it's not even close.
Right.
There is a difference too in what city you go to be sure. And I can't remember whether I brought it up on this podcast before, but I went to do a story on Connor McDavid's first game, and everything there was orchestrated. You really can't just walk up to him at his cubicle and begin a conversation with him.
Right.
Because he's playing for a Canadian team, and there are a lot of Canadian reporters that are interested. A few days later, I went to Buffalo, and I walked up to Jack Eichel playing in Buffalo. And carried on a conversation with him. He was not roped off. He was not sequestered. It really does make a difference in where you play, just with the amount of media in Canada versus Buffalo. So the same would be true of Austin Matthews. There's the number of outlets that cover Arizona is so small that there'd be greater access to him. Now, saying all that, I bet there would be more if Austin Matthews was there. I would bet papers would take interest. It would, particularly if he ends up being, a dominant, a Crosby-like presence or a, Eric Lindros style presence.
But as an American kid in a Canadian city, it's not quite as powerful, I think, as a Canadian kid in a Canadian city.
I think Austin Matthews, if he ended up in Edmonton, would probably get the same amount of attention. I mean, the storyline changes because what makes Connor McDavid so interesting is he's the first Canadian superstar in a Canadian city, and I know some people are going to argue Carey Price, but that's just different.
Gretzky.
Since Gretzky, correct. There really hasn't been a player of his magnitude since Gretzky.
Right, right. It's very dramatic with the music in the background. I'm not sure where that's coming from. But,
I like it though. It's coming from like the heavens. It's like
it is. It's like which is okay. So but let's move on to for a second here. Steven Stamkos. Okay, so TSN a few days ago tweets out yesterday actually, right before the show, tweets out what I call the shooting fish in a barrel article. Should the Maple Leafs go after Steven Stamkos? Okay, just like this is like who's better, Crosby or Ovechkin? We all have these articles we can pull out at any point when we really need them. All right, so let's throw this out. So they tweet this out. They put an article up on TSN, and Steven Stamkos favorites the tweet. Okay, favorites the tweet from TSN, and this is
And this is not the first time.
This is the third time he has favorited a tweet talking about him and the Maple Leafs. Now, he then goes out and says, oh, I favorited it accidentally. I didn't mean to. I unfavorited it, which I don't know how you do that, but you just click on it again.
You just press it again.
Right. And we've all favorited things, by mistake, and that can happen for sure. And especially like on Instagram, I favorite things all the time by accident. And then I don't want to unfavorite because I feel like a jerk. But, he favorited. Do we believe he favorited this by accident? Is there anything? Is Stamkos playing a little game with everybody here and just having some fun with this thing?
If he did, his favorite album is Sticky Fingers. No, I honestly, I think this is a brilliant ploy on the part of his agent because you've got a week between the Maple Leafs' last game and their next game, which just happens to be against Tampa. And like you said, this is the second or third time that he has done this. And I know for a fact because I took a photo of this off of my computer and reposted it. It was up there. It wasn't up there for a few minutes. It was up there for about an hour, and then he took it down. Enough time for people to realize what was going on.
You wouldn't realize that you favorited something. So I mean, I don't buy that completely.
Sure I do.
I mean, no, you wouldn't. No, you would not. Like you could easily favorite something, and like until an hour later, someone says, "Hey, did you favorite that?" Wait a second. Yeah, I don't think.
I've done that. Yeah.
I mean, I think that. I mean, I will never know for sure, and that is one of the more interesting things about social media to me is that we don't know for sure. I mean, I favorite things. Like one of my things to do is if someone writes something on Twitter, a response to me that isn't a question, but just like, hey, great article, great podcast today. I'll favorite that as a way of saying thanks. I appreciate it. I really do. It's just it's without replying, but just like saying I appreciate that. I read it. I like it. Thank you very much. I think that he. I don't know. It's fascinating. It's the new media, but we all deep down do believe that Steven Stamkos wants to stay in Tampa. That's at the end of the day.
Like whether he meant to or not, it happened and then it didn't. So at the end of the day, is this going to change Steve Yzerman's position? No.
No. I don't think it's his agent. I'm not going to go full aluminum foil.
Okay. And I want to get Kevin's point of view on this because I know USA Today wrote a little thing about it last night. I just think that if this was a move, if this wasn't an accident, and I find it hard to believe that it's an accident 3 times over, that it gets. I mean, all they're talking about in Toronto, all they will talk about in Toronto for the next week is Stamkos. So one little favor, one little thing like that has. I mean, believe me, it was being talked about before, but now it's 15 times, and you're talking about a regular season game in the middle of December, and everything that anybody is talking about is Steven Stamkos, and he will be swarmed with media next Monday and Tuesday in Toronto. So do I think that this was maybe a little bit arranged? I think it's possible, but I don't know for sure.
One thing's for sure, John Cooper is not going to like it.
Right.
I think the whole organization is not going to like it. And, all we can do in this situation is take him at his word.
Yeah.
And having accidentally liked things myself, where you're just not paying attention because you're reading a lot of different things, and you're going down and you're scanning and you put your thumb on it. I mean, it can happen, and I could see him doing it more than once. And if he says it was an accident, I guess we just have to believe him. But I agree with that. None of this changes anything. I mean, it creates. Discussion, which was already there. It just adds a little more fuel to the fire. And, with regard to TSN's question, the answer is of course.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I accidentally liked Nickelback on Facebook and thinking it was the Foo Fighters because the screen changed, and then I unliked it. I realized it.
If Gwyneth Paltrow wants to go on a date with you, do you go? Yeah, give me a break, of course. But I mean, honestly, I think the grander question in terms of the Maple Leaf perspective is, are they far enough along with what they want to do under Babcock and Lamoriello to add a guy like Stamkos and sort of abandon the rebuild after 1 year? And I think most fans and probably a lot of people in Leaf ownership would say, hell yeah, because you don't get a chance to get a 25-year-old superstar and he's he's just entering his prime. He's not going to be over the hill at 28.
Yeah.
Okay.
But how did we reach the point when if you're 25, you can't be part of a rebuild?
Yeah,
I agree.
That's just to me though. You're at the sort of the tail end of the guys you're trying to get. I mean, you never
But here's the bigger question. I think is he's part of a team that has been to the Cup and is a real Cup contender. Now, is he really going to be willing to go to a team where there's no guarantee he'll ever make it back to the Stanley Cup? Because they haven't even made it back to the Stanley Cup. Yes, every player thinks he can do it, but that's going to put serious thought in his head. Like everybody's just assuming he'll go there and make him a Stanley Cup contender. We don't know that.
Well, I mean, there are things on the outside like the hometown boy coming back, the fact that Babcock is there and his reputation, Lamoriello and his reputation. I mean, there are contributing factors to him potentially wanting to go back there if he doesn't get everything that he wants from Tampa. And I think that's the more important thing. It's like, will he be playing center?
Right.
Will they give him the money that he wants? Will they give him the 8 years? I mean, are they going to be able to do that with all the other contracts that they have to sign? I mean, there are a number of things that have to.
You're not going to get assurances that you're playing center. Like from.
Right, you won't get that assurance. You're right.
I mean, you can't do that. You can't. That is always failed players when they try.
Yeah, I think what just happened in the last week, it probably helps the case of him going to free agency even more, because as soon as John Cooper signs that contract, he's back at right wing, even though Tyler Johnson's out.
I did some research on this too, and maybe you have other details than me, Kevin. But everybody I talked to about Cooper and the Cooper and Stamkos relationship says it's 95% great. Like that they really do.
That's true too.
They really do like each other, and that there's.
I agree with that. It is an issue. I mean, I've talked to Stamkos. He makes it clear he prefers to play center, and I talked to Cooper about it in the summer, and he basically said, it's not like he is totally committed to playing him on a wing. There are certain situations where he just feels the team can be better off if he's on the wing. So
yeah. I mean, the bigger issue for me with Toronto, and if you're Steven Stamkos, is Steven Stamkos is an awesome player. He's from the Maple Leaf area, of course. All that's great, but is he consistent enough to be okay in Toronto? I mean, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but he is all over the map, Stamkos, at times. There are points at which he's more often great than he isn't great, but it only takes a slight slump in Toronto to just be like the world is coming to an end, right?
So what's a slump for him? 30 goals?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all I have to do is mention Matt Sundin, who was an amazing player. But whenever Matt Sundin, wasn't scoring for a brief period of time, the world was coming to an end.
I think Matt Sundin is the cautionary tale for Stamkos. I think that's something that his agent will probably bring up to him.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is this, and this is really kind of a fun question to debate. Are there any athletes who are deserving, basically to gain the respect of allowing them to do what they, want to do? And by that, has Stamkos earned the right to walk into Cooper and say, look, I get it, but I need to play center. That's just my position. I'm more comfortable. Now, I say the answer to that is yes. I mean, I've seen athletes through the years. I mean, obviously Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux were those kind of athletes. But, Nick Lidstrom in Detroit, basically the way they negotiated his contract was they called him in, laid out the budget, showed him, how much everyone was going to make, and then they say to him, what do you need to make it work? And then they would just, sort of give it to him. Steve Yzerman was another guy. So the question is whether Stamkos, should have that right, in Tampa Bay. He's been one of the most prolific scorers in the game.
Sure. I still say no because it's the Cappy era, and it may be the difference of fitting in that one player you need to get back to the Stanley Cup or not because you're playing center or not. Sometimes you have to, as a great player, be selfless, and whether it's what you want or you don't, if you get all your other demands met, then you got to suck it up sometimes too.
See, I don't agree with that because part of their greatness is their pride. Derek Jeter would have retired 3 years before he actually did if the Yankees had tried to move him to third base or move him to second base. I'm convinced of that.
But Yogi Berra played the outfield. Right, but
we're talking about a different era and a different player. Yogi Berra. I think now.
Personality, right? Very different personality.
And what about this? What if Stamkos just said to Cooper, "Look, I've tried it. I just can't get comfortable there."
That's different. And that's different. Yes.
Yeah, that is different. This is why
agree with you then.
We've seen this happen. This is why Jágr is no longer in Philadelphia. This was the sticking point in Jágr in Philly, where Jágr said, "I want to be guaranteed that I'm going to be on the power play," and they said, "No, we can't guarantee that. There's a good chance you will be because you're great on the power play, but we can't guarantee you're going to be there," and they let him go.
And all the other things that we've talked about, the ancillary things might just be contributing factors to him potentially wanting to go to Toronto. But it could be something as simple as I want to play center, and I know that if I go to Toronto, I'm going to be the #1 center. I'm going to be the focal point of that franchise. And the motive. I think can't be. I'm writing something about this right now. The Leafs are celebrating their 100th anniversary next year. You don't think that organization wants to make the biggest splash that they possibly can and would not spend anything that they could to get Steven Stamkos?
I don't think it's going to come down to whether or not they want to spend money for Stamkos. They want to spend money for Stamkos. They'll give him what he wants. It's all up to what Stamkos wants to do.
Yeah, I think if I'm Tampa, I go to Stamkos and say, we will give you Swedish fish at your locker in between every period. You've got to have the green room set up. Nobody's talking about that.
I'm not sure that's allowed under the collective bargaining agreement.
I don't think Swedish fish are allowed under the collective bargaining agreement.
But you know what's in there? Wait, Kevin, you know what's in there, though? Double bubble. Nobody chooses that anymore, and it's in every locker room. Why?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, but those kind of things were addressed, not Swedish fish, but just the added incentives that some teams can provide.
Right. I want bubble yum.
At the All-Star game, Russ, can you please go to the Professional Hockey Writers Association meeting with Kevin and get the Swedish fish back in the Flyers press box?
All-Star game, but I'll send Kevin will do it.
We need them back in the Flyers press box. Come on.
A ridiculously sad story about the first meeting after I stepped down from president. And the chance to go, I forgot to go to the meeting. That's an absolute true story.
That's awesome.
First meeting was president. I was not boycotting. I simply forgot what was going on because I no longer was in charge. So it just slipped my mind. And about 2 hours after the meeting, I said, "Oh my God." I forgot. I really did. I forgot to go.
I distracted you. We went to lunch or something like that.
Yeah, probably so. But I forgot to go to the meeting. I was never so embarrassed.
Oh my gosh. Well, the Swedish fish and the fly. I hear they're coming back. I hear they're coming back in the Flyers press box. It's Little Birdie told me so.
I heard they could be back after the New Year too.
Yeah, we'll see. I want to go on because I don't think that's a topic that many of you care too much about. To nationalities of goalies. I saw this incredible graph. Nationality of NHL goalies since 1990. Okay, so here it is. Here's the draft. Okay, so that red line there is Canadian goalies. Okay, and so this is from 1990 to the present. Look at this dip from 80% of the Canadian goalies in 80% of the NHL goalies were Canadian in 1990 to 34.7 in 2015-16.
Everybody's catching up. It's simple.
That doesn't surprise me because I'm sure if you looked at the amount of defensemen and forwards, it would be similar because the influx of Europeans started. Boreas Salming came to the NHL along with Inge Hammarström in 1974. There were some Swedes in the 80s, but the increase of Finns and Swedes and Russians, started around the early 90s. I think that.
But this is, I think it's more. I think it's way more emphasized for goalies than it is for players. But I think
it is more emphasized for goalies, and the Canadian Hockey League made a rule about it, so obviously it's a worry for them too.
Yeah, Yeah, no, it's just I think that's a fascinating graph. I mean, the U.S. goalies we talked about the last week as well, and just how we have so many great young U.S. goalies, and how Canada is not quite there. They've got some great goalies too, but not quite to the numbers. But I really like that statistic. I thought it was really.
Yeah, I mean, the next terrific Finnish goalie could be Joonas Korpisalo, who just got called up for Columbus. Whether John Tortorella will play him over Curtis McElhinney is another story. I would play him because he's a lot better talent. But McElhinney, he knows what he has, so that kid will probably never see the ice.
Here's an interesting story, though. We're in preparation for the Winter Classic. USA Today is going to redraft the NHL as if it was still the original 6. And, I've put together a list of former coaches and GMs and players who are acting as GMs. They'll name their coaches, and they're going to draft all the players. The draft starts this week. But what's interesting is one of my GMs is Neil Smith, who was the Rangers GM, obviously, when the last time they won the Cup. And he raised an interesting point, not one that we don't know, but you just don't think about it. And he said, what's funny is, the reason why this is going to be so much fun is because the expansion of the league has created such a large pool. If the original 6 had not expanded, we wouldn't have a pool that's going to be so fun because, the 139th best player in the game in the NHL right now is going to get cut. They're not going to make our original 6. And we're only going to have 12 goalies. So, the 13th best goalie in the league is not going to make our original 6.
Wow.
And now, because of expansion, because we're now getting players out of places in America that we never would have dreamed possible even 25 years ago, it's really going to be a fun exercise.
I think it's great. Did you eliminate the Canadians' territorial rights? Did you go that far?
We did, and I'm basing the draft is based on the reverse order of the last time the original 6 played in 1966. So, believe it or not, the Chicago Blackhawks finished first in the regular season, so they actually have the last pick, which is 6th overall, in my draft that's starting this week. And the first pick goes to the Boston Bruins, and it'll be interesting to see who the first pick will go to.
Wow.
Who will it be? I would have said Jonathan Taves before, but now I'm not so sure who the first pick will be. So.
Wow, that is something. That's really. I can't wait for that. Well, definitely.
Wouldn't it be ironic if it was Tyler Seguin?
So are you going to release it over time, sort of?
No, we're gonna. It's all going to appear in our. And then the other thing is, and I haven't had this formalized yet, but for sure that will appear in our Winter Classic section.
Okay.
But the rosters and everything. But we're actually trying to get a computerized.
I was just about to say I can do that for you guys if you want.
Well, if you can do it, you might be the one to do it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. But I could do it. I could do it, and I could show highlights of it for crying out loud. I could do like the computerized and actually put together highlights of the games. It would be fun.
So you see, Neil Smith, who once picked Kim Janssen last in the draft and got a lot of credit for it, will get a lot better pick this time.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm not going to give you any further help on this before, but Neil Smith is not the general manager of the New York Rangers.
Okay, there you go. Oh man, so much. This is exciting. I can't wait. This is really awesome. I kind
of hope it's an older gentleman, if you know what I mean.
So he is not the pick.
Wow, this is going to be good. All right, I can't wait to see this. Yesterday we talked about. We'll definitely have more about that. Yesterday we talked about Patrick Kane's point streak, and the fact that I think that I'm moving for empty net goals to be disallowed in point streaks. I think.
So you're bringing this up now. You're bringing this up now that I'm outnumbered here, right?
No, I think Kevin might be on your side.
Kevin will be on your side. Don't worry.
I am on your side. I mean, it's not his fault that he had an empty net, point. I mean, I've had this discussion before, and that's just part and parcel of the game. Sometimes that extends streaks. What are you going to do? I mean, count those points.
Well, yes, but here's the thing. You have to admit, if they get into the situation again, and if it's him and Panarin and another guy on the ice, it's going to Kane if he doesn't have a goal. You have to admit that.
But that happens in real hockey all the time. If a guy has 2 goals, you go to him.
Within the context of the game, yes, but within the context of the season statistics.
But that doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter.
If it comes down and a guy has struggled to score a goal, like if Darren Helm in Detroit came 2-on-1 on on an empty net goal, they would pass to Helm because the guy desperately needs a goal. I mean,
right. Well, that I get, but like we're talking about records being set here. You know, we're talking about length. You're talking about and the Predators pull their goalie down up 2 goals the other night and give Kane a chance to extend his record. If the Predators don't pull their goalie, which is perfectly reasonable to not pull your goalie down 2 goals. I mean, most teams do now, but not all the time. Then we would have seen, we could have seen, his streak end, and 2 games now in a row that his streak has been extended. And I went and I tried my best to find. It's really hard to find box scores from the 80s, by the way, even on the internet. But I went back and I tried to see what Gretzky's 51 streak, which I still think should be 61 because of the 10 games the year before, but that's another debate. But his 51 game streak, and I tried to find any empty netters that he had during that streak, and I could only find one, and it was at game 40 something, like 41 or 42. And that's pretty crazy, but a lot of that had to do with the fact the Oilers were up by like 4 or 5 goals on teams, and people only pulled their goalie back then. It was a very different. We don't live in the Patrick Waugh era of goalie pulls, so Patrick Waugh has, in a sense, made scoring streaks easier for players to maintain because we're people pulling their goalies earlier.
Again, I say, so what? The goal counts. It's not like they're up 3-1 and then after Kane gets the empty netter, the score is 3-1 with an asterisk. It's 4-1.
Okay, let me ask you this, Mike. Hold on, Mike. If he breaks Gretzky's record and he has 7 empty net goals and we look it up and Gretzky's only got 2, are you going to say that Gretzky's not better? And even though the other guy, even though Kane has the record, you're not going to say Gretzky performed better?
I don't care. It's a goal. A goal is a goal.
I'm never going to say, even if Kane had a 70-game streak, that he's better than Wayne Gretzky.
Well, here's Wayne Gretzky. This is why I bring this up on NHL.com today, okay, or yesterday, actually. Wayne Gretzky made his comment on this. He said Wayne Gretzky's NHL point streak is more than twice as long as Patrick Kane's current one, and Gretzky said Kane's might be a little more challenging. He said the Blackhawks forward extended with an empty netter. Gretzky told Hockey Central on Wednesday, what he's gone through is maybe a little more challenging than what I had to go through. The goaltenders in general are better today. The defense is better today. The players are bigger and stronger. So what he is doing, he should be proud of.
Yeah, that's Wayne being humble. That's Wayne being
That's
Wayne
being nice.
Well, he's also being
better than Gretzky. I'm just talking about streak-wise. Gretzky's streak is likely going to be better than Kane's even if Kane breaks it.
But nothing that happened in that game is not something that happens routinely in the NHL.
Right.
Goals get pulled. Empty nets are part of the situation.
Right.
So are we going to eliminate all the empty net goals that players have had through the years when they've won scoring championships?
No, we're just saying put an asterisk.
We don't need an asterisk.
Yeah, you don't need an asterisk. Is Pete? I'm sorry to go to baseball here, for an analogy act, but sorry. Is Pete Rose's 44-game hitting streak more impressive than Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak because there were relief pitchers in the 70s? I don't think so. I mean,
it made it more challenging. It did.
Yeah, but we don't. Unless you're really in a baseball society, historical society, you don't really look at it like that. Splitting the hairs like that. So,
all right, so we're too picky.
Kane also has 2 goals during the streak in 3-on-3 overtime, something that Gretzky never experienced, or maybe did experience. Well, no, he never experienced, right? No,
that's not challenging to score a goal in 3-on-3 overtime.
That's what I'm saying again. Again, this is another, now. So that's my next shift. So I think we're split on this topic. I really see this, and I know we have the baseball jar where you're starting to use the baseball jar. You put $1 in a baseball jar every time you bring up baseball on the show. But I'm going to say this one more time. One baseball equivalent that I agree with is you don't give is the idea of an earned run average for pitcher. You don't give him a run for something that he didn't give. I like that part of baseball. I like that. That to me is somehow equivalent to the empty net goal and should somehow be counted. There's a way to count an empty net goal versus a regular goal that should perhaps be counted differently.
Oh God.
Yeah, I mean, no. I mean,
you're just way over the line here. I mean, it's not contrived. It's just part of the game. It just happens. Sometimes there's goalies get pulled. We don't not count. We don't put an asterisk on everyone who had an empty net goal in the scoring leaders. If you can win the Rocket Richard and have empty net goals.
So Derek Stepan's goal from center ice, should that count as 2 goals because it was from outside the blue line?
No, we're not saying that. Listen,
you're trying to equate a value to a goal based on
we're equating a value to a streak. It's not to the
right. We're equating a value to a streak. That's where I'm at too. Yeah, because and I'm not. Listen, I mean, I get it. It's part of the whole thing, but there's no real equivalent because there's not like an easier hit in baseball in the 9th inning because they I don't know, maybe there is because you pull the infield in. I don't know. There are equivalents, but I'm trying to figure it out.
Is broken by a bunt single.
Baseball, like I said, there's no real. Now let's move on.
There's a randomness to all of sports.
Right.
That it's simply part of the game, and all that an athlete can do is play in the situation that he has. And Patrick Kane did not set up what situation he had. It was presented to him, and it's his job to thrive in that situation.
But every game that he doesn't have a goal in this streak, this opportunity will present itself when there's an empty net. That's for sure.
He skated by Peter Laviolette and said, "Lavi, pull the goalie for me."
Okay, so let's move on. Here is a picture of the Washington Capitals' new 3rd jersey completely, okay?
Which is their old jersey.
And I'm trying to figure out why we're interested in this, because this really is just like, to me, the Mike Ridley Capitals.
That's my favorite jersey of theirs, to be honest. I actually...
You know what's funny? I like it now, but I hated it when it was out originally. I thought this was the stupidest jersey, but now there's like it proves that anything retro can look good to you, is the fact that this looks good to me. And the same thing goes with the Vancouver Canucks stupid jersey.
No, not the V, no.
Not the V, no, the win with the big...
Eck hates the rink with the stick, which I think that jersey's great.
That jersey's okay, but the V, don't talk about the V.
Was that Michael Pavanka standing next to Alex?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Michael Pavanka or Dale Hunter. This is the Dale Hunter jersey to me for the Capitals. But anyway... Last thing I want to talk about today, the 3-on-3 overtime, and in the All-Star game. We've discussed it many times. We like it, but this stuff, I'm starting to worry about it. And I'm starting to worry about it for a couple reasons. Okay, first off, have you noticed the definite change in strategy? We talked a little bit about it yesterday, going on in 3-on-3s. There's a movement afoot that players are moving slowly in 3-on-3s. They're coming up the ice slowly. They're coming up in groups of 3s. They're trying to stay together. There's a really big conservativeness, and there's 2 things I'm worrying about. One, I'm worrying about will this just continue? Obviously, this is a strategy now. Players understand this. They know how to not get caught in 3-on-3, so they're trying not to get caught, and that could make this for some really boring hockey. Secondly, have they tried this yet? In terms of the amount of time that they're going to be done, like I want to know. I contacted the NHL. I'm like, have you just taken like a dozen people or whatever? Just take they should pick like the equivalent of players, whether they're 45 or 48 players, right? 48 players from the AHL on a Saturday at a rink, and I want you to play these guys for 10 minutes straight or 20, and then a break and 10 minutes straight, and see how this plays out and how exhausted these guys are going to get, and how and the lack. I really think that they need to test this. I'm worried about it all of a sudden. Like I'm starting to think.
I'm telling you, I did an article on it. Go look at Dustin Brown. He was wiped out after the Kings game and against the Flyers, and he basically told me so. And a few other players pretty much echoed it, but didn't want to like outrule the fact that they have it because it's a league decision and a player decision. And then a few players didn't seem to mind it, but it does seem like at the end of the season, it's going to take a great toll on goalies. That's my worry.
This particular thing, I think, is an injury factory waiting to happen, and that's what I'm thinking about. If they play it the way we want them to play it, it's really risky.
That's the key words. I brought this up to a player, and he said, "Do you really believe we're going to go full speed?"
Right, they're not.
They're not.
No.
So
if they're not going full speed, is this really going to be interesting or not?
Then you're in my court then. End the All-Star game.
Well, no, then I'm worried about
it. Just accept it for what it is. It's been the annual NHL convention for years. The people who show up and watch it, they're not the traditional fans. They're sponsors. They bring. There's a lot of kids there. You just show up. It is what it is. Like it's not. That game is not for you, Mike. They don't put it on for you. They don't put it on for us. They don't put it on for me.
Right.
They put it on. We all get together. The top stars in the game get to give a State of the Union message. Bettman talks about the game. We all get together and we celebrate the sport.
Right.
And the only people who whine about the competition are the hardcore hockey fans, and to whom I say, don't watch.
Right. I agree. This isn't for you. This isn't for you. I've always said that to hardcore hockey fans.
It's not for you. It really isn't, and it's not. And the media complain about it, but it's really not for us either. So it is what it is. It's a big event in the cities it is, and we just have to start sort of putting it in its class by itself and not look at it as if it has to be. If you want it to be competitive, I said this before, make it NHL versus KHL. It will never happen because everyone will worry about the injury. Yeah. But I guarantee you that would be a competitive game.
Right,
that would be competitive.
Kevin hit on it too. When you said players aren't going to play at full speed, that's true. But when I was talking to Pecorine, it's still the game. Nothing changes for a goalie. They have to play at top goalie form. They can't just say, well, yeah, I'll sort of take it easy in this 3-on-3. And towards the end of the season, if you're playing back-to-backs and you're playing back-to-back 3-on-3 overtimes as a goalie, it's going to take a toll.
Right. I mean, I worry, and I think that any player I think we're going to see a lot of players back out because they're slightly hurt.
Well, no, I mean...
No, I'm not talking about the All-Star game. I'm talking about regular season.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about All-Star game just for a second.
But already, I mean, I think you can write off Carey Price, even if he comes back.
You got to write off Carey Price. There's no reason.
And you probably could write off Sergei Bobrovsky because he just had his annual lower body injury, so he'll be out for 3 or 4 weeks. So, yeah, I think the wear and tear is going to affect who's available.
I feel bad saying this because I really admire the NHL taking this shot. Like, I really do think this is really a great concept, but I just think that there's certain things that they're not considering, and the main thing that I keep going back to is there's no reason to not have, 2 teams play 10 minutes, then the other teams play 10 minutes, as opposed to having a team play 10 minutes, a break, and then those same 2 teams come and play 10 minutes. Because those people who play the second and quote-unquote second and third period, whoever wins the second half of the second game will have to play the third game back-to-back, will be playing 40 straight minutes of 3-on-3 hockey.
Then win the skills competition. That's the whole thing.
I think they'll be okay, though. I'm not worried about it. From the All-Star game perspective, I think it will be terrific no matter who's playing because I think NHL guys are great. I worry about it from a regular season perspective, affecting the standings because of goalies getting worn down if they're in a race and if they have playing a condensed amount of games and now they're all of a sudden they're having to play in these 2.
The concerns about a player that you would have internationally going to the Olympics, like the Islanders had with John Tavares, and obviously he got injured. That's the same thing to me as the All-Star game. Now that there's $1 million, and I know all these guys are millionaires, but like we've said, the competitive juices get flowing, and they want to win that money. Yeah. I think they'll step it up a little bit, and that's one of the things that's exciting. But it's also things that'll make it a little risky.
Can we have an over/under of the amount of? Can we have an over/under of the amount of goals that are going to be scored?
All right, I'll give you that in a minute. But you also have to agree that in a 3-on-3 overtime, goalies work harder than they do when it's 5-on-5.
A lot harder. I mean, and that one period is going to be exhausting. So whatever goalies, I mean, there are
They'll split the time. They'll have 2 goalies.
No, they'll have 2 goalies. That's true.
No, that's like the equivalent of playing. That's just if whoever plays the last, like I said, whoever plays the last 2 the last 2 are going to be screwed. And that, to me, I don't know why it isn't just Central versus Pacific, then Atlantic versus Metro, then back to Central versus Pacific, and then back to Atlantic versus Metro. It doesn't make any sense to not do it that way. 10 minutes, give everybody a break, a breather.
If you think of it that way, then the 2 teams that are playing the last quarter of those 4 is at a disadvantage based on what you're saying. It's like
no, but it's a far less disadvantage than having just played 20 straight minutes. Yeah. I mean, they're only playing 20 minutes and they're also getting a break between their 2 10-minute segments, so they're getting a chance to get 10 minutes and then having 15, 20 minutes off while the ice is resurfaced and they play another 10 minutes, they resurface the ice. I mean, to me. So what I wonder is, and I haven't been able to get an answer, is have they tried this? Have they actually physically? I want to see them put players out there and just try it.
Between this and the empty net goals.
No, don't you think you should try this to see what's going to happen to guys?
The teams are playing 3-on-3 almost every.
No, but not this length and not this amount of time. I mean, 3-on-3 this amount of time is a totally.
I don't think it's that big a deal for one game. I don't think it's that big a deal. But last year there was 29 goals scored. I'm putting the number at 60 total.
Yeah. 60. That's a I can see that. Will there be any more defense played in this thing
What's that?
than a normal All-Star game? Because in a way, I mean,
No.
yeah, I mean, I guess there's no defense played. Well, there is defense played 3-on-3 right now, and in the way you play cautiously, I guess it's not really that you're playing defense.
But all right, so what do you want? Over 60. I've set the bar at 60.
I'm gonna go over. I'm going over.
You're going over, Mike.
I'll go over 68 for Jaromir Jagr.
60 would imply like 10, 10 type things, right?
I will admit, and I will agree with the point that it has become slightly more defensively conscious in the 3-on-3. But it's not like we've gone into the Peterborough freeze here. I mean, I think you're still getting. I think teams are being a little more careful coming up the ice, a little more careful in terms of giving up the puck because they know if they give it up, it's a breakaway or a 2-on-1. But there's still, I mean, I saw 2 or 3 3-on-3s in the last couple days, and they were all exciting. So I don't think it's really killing anything.
And I mean, but as Kevin sits there and says, that the players are, you think we're really going to go all out, and they say no.
Well, goalies are still not going to want to be embarrassed. They're going to try.
And the other aspect of this is the NHL is setting this up in a competitive way. So so they can say they're not going to go all out, but by not going all out, that means you're not moving on to the third period of getting a chance to. So I think that there's going to be, I think there is going to be moments.
Right, I'll give you a name. Let's say for some reason the goalies whittle down to Craig Anderson, right? No slight on Craig Anderson, but he's always like a bubble guy. If Craig Anderson's in there and he's got a chance to win, split up an extra $1 million, he's going to be trying his best. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah, no, and I think the championship game, the third period or whatever, will be intense. I think it'll have, and I think the second half of each game will be intense. I think the first half of each game might be a little bit slower, like we talked about. But when it comes down to trying to win or not, these are the natural fact that these guys are so competitive is going to come out because they're not going to get to play. There's a difference between losing.
Now, if they whittle down to Carter Hutton getting in there. Now, Carter Hutton had a good game the other night, by the way.
Carter Hutton's a great goalie.
It's sort of like the preliminary rounds of the home run derby are always better than the final.
Right.
Okay, there you go. So no, Carter Hutton's a great.
He didn't say baseball. No,
In fact, I'm working on a sponsor right now that we're gonna have for the HockeyBuzzCast hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And one of the things I wanted, they asked me could we have an authorization code, a code that we could use, that people could say, okay, put this code at checkout and you'll get a discount from the HockeyBuzz thing. So I made that authorization code Carter Hutton. So we'll see what happens when it comes down to it. But that's going to be the authorization code to save money from our sponsor. But anyway, yeah. So there's so much more to talk about, of course, but it's 2:07. We got to get out of here. But I really I want to do a quick.
Alain Vigneault talk about him basically getting an unsportsmanlike that helped lose a game for the Rangers. Okay.
All right. Wait a sec. Go ahead. Give us.
Listen. There was a bad call with Jarrett Stahl, right? There was a puck under his body.
Okay.
And he didn't cup it with his hand, and they called delay a game.
Right.
Alain Vigneault was incensed. And after the goal was scored from that, he clapped on the bench and he threw out an expletive that basically got an unsportsmanlike attributed to him. And then, basically that hurt the Rangers too.
Was this off a face-off?
It was not off a face-off, I don't believe.
Yeah,
that's a rough one. That's a rough one.
There was and I questioned this. There was a penalty in the Devils Leafs game on Tuesday where one of the Devils centers.
A shot, Mike. I believe he was blocking a shot.
Okay, one of the Devils centers on the faceoff. Now the rule is you can't direct the puck off of the faceoff with your hand. His arm directed the puck away. It was incidental. They called the 2-minute penalty.
Yeah, see, I know when it's the hand, when you do it for the hand reflex, it should be called. It shouldn't be called for the arm. This one probably shouldn't have been called, but my point is that Alain Vigneault has been off his game for a few weeks now, and that really shows you how on edge he's been, because he never would have that happen if it were a tight game.
That is definitely out of
characteristic.
For sure. No, that is really interesting.
So that's all I wanted to mention.
I like that. So a couple cards here. Again, if you want to ask a question, like we had a question yesterday, we like doing questions. Email your question to Eklund@HockeyBuzz.com. Put Carter Hutton in the subject.
Especially people who don't like me.
Yeah, just put Carter Hutton in the subject, and we'll answer that question. We'll have to have Carter Hutton on at some point. All right, so he knows that I'm fine with it. I like Carter Hutton. People missed the point on that. I'm not going to explain myself again. I'm not going to explain myself again. All right, so this is the first player we're going to talk to. This guy actually played.
Wait, you're going to interview a card?
No.
Well, you said you're going to talk to him.
Right. Yep. Okay. Yes. It was yesterday when I hit my head. Everything's, I don't know what I'm doing.
Discombobulated.
Okay, so here we go. This player played for the Philadelphia Flyers at the end of his career, but this is actually where you knew him more often as this player. He's a defenseman from the Montreal Canadiens. This is his picture here. No.
San Jose.
He was number 14, I think, for the Canadiens.
Mario Tremblay?
He played his first year. He played for the Sabres/Canadiens.
Kevin Haller.
Kevin Haller.
Wow.
Kevin makes me want to holler, I used to call him. All right, so there he is.
I think he was a first-round pick by the Sabres.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think you're right.
See if I'm trying to do this whole thing right here.
It's sad that I know that.
All right.
A little.
Very, very little. All right, so next up we have a good one. This is the Blues, a St. Louis Blue. Back in the day, this is a 1990-91 card. I will read you a little bit of his bio, okay? He was acquired in a trade from Washington in 1987. He had a solid season with the Blues in 1991, but wasn't without a scary incident. On December 22nd against the Blackhawks, a Doug Wilson slapshot smashed into his left index finger, severing the tip. He returned a month later and went on to score a career-high 10 goals. In 89-90, he led the league with a plus 38 rating.
This is a defenseman?
He is not a defenseman. He is a yes, he is a defenseman. Sorry, he is definitely a defenseman. I don't know why I didn't think he was a defenseman. Here's his picture. This is him as a Blue.
I'm going to fail on this one.
I remember him as a Stratomatic player for sure, Mike. He's like that was my era of Stratomatic that he was in.
Yeah, me too, but I'm trying to think of...
Here's his picture. Here's his face. This is right after he's asked the question, 3-on-3 overtime in the future? What? All right, so there he is. So this player...
St. Louis Blues defenseman from the early 90s.
Right. Tip of his finger was severed on a shot by Doug Wilson.
Kevin had to have done that interview.
Yeah, I'm sure I did, but I
Kevin probably wrote the back of this card for all we know.
Right.
What kind of card is it?
This is a Score 91 card.
Look up Score, yeah.
I probably did.
You probably did, huh? It does feel like, I just read it, it feels like you're writing. He had a solid season for the Bruins in 1991, but it wasn't without a scary incident. See, that's like the perfect setup.
The Blues.
The Blues. That's a Kevin Allen setup right there. And then on December 22nd, Doug Wilson slapshot smashed into his left index finger, severing the tip. He returned a month later and went on to score a career-high 10 goals. In 89-90, he led the league with a plus 38 rating. So there you go. Give up?
Give me.
I'll give you his first name.
Give us some initials.
All right. PC. First name starts
Paul
with P.
Cavallini.
Paul Cavallini.
Because I thought of Gino. I was thinking of Gino, but I knew Gino was a forward.
Yeah.
Did you write the back of this card, Kevin, do you think?
I don't have any idea. It does sound declarative sentence backfill. That's how you.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, Mike, I want to leave. Not Mike. I want to leave the show with this. The Penguins won, but Daniel Sprong only played 6 minutes and 6 seconds. Is that more palatable because they won?
Does that mean, what it really means? Does that mean Johnston lost? The Penguins won, but did Johnston lose? Because
right. Oh man. Yeah. Let's talk about this for a second before we go. I was going to show one more card that real quick because this is Red Wing that this is when I grew up with a family of Red Wings. My dad was a Red Wing guy, and he used to listen to Dave Strader on an AM radio that was all crackly all the time. That was my growing up. My mom would hate it. It was like all you'd hear this loud sound, and barely his voice underneath. But when the Red Wings stunk, and then when Yzerman came along, and this guy was one of those guys that actually felt like a turning point. This
is a Johnny Ogrodnik card.
Here's his picture. Let me see if we can see that.
Is it Vaclav Nedomansky?
No. This is his picture. He was a winger, I believe. Yeah, 6'1", 200-pound winger, left wing. So
What
this
year?
is this year that we have here is 93. So he started his first year with the Red Wings was 88, 89. The most points he ever scored in a year, according at least in there, he was roughly a 20-goal scorer. Like he had 19, 24, 20, 19, and then fell to 10 in 92, 93.
James Shepard?
I thought of him as a no. In my memory of him he was a great penalty killer. I remember my dad always talking about him as a big-time penalty killer.
It's not Dallas Drake, is it?
No, but you're in the right area, sort of. He is from Sarnia, and his initials are SB.
That's Sean Burr.
Sean Burr. There you go. Right?
Yeah.
He was a good penalty killer, correct? Am I right about that?
Yeah, he was. He's the late Sean Burr. He passed away. So.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So let's talk briefly when we get out of here about this Penguin situation because I do want to get Kevin's opinion on it. It's getting pretty dire. I mean, Rutherford doesn't say stuff like this to the media without knowing what he's doing, Kevin. I mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's some tension there. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, the team is struggling to score. I think the defense is kind of held together the best they could, to be honest with you. I mean, the mandate for the Penguins was to, when Dan Balsbo was fired, was to be a team that was better prepared for the postseason. That was built for the regular season, and they're actually sort of winning close games.
Right.
Not lately. I mean, they won last night, but they've struggled recently. But the Sprong situation has become an issue. They kept him with the idea that he was going to play, and now Johnson isn't playing him, and some of the top players, Letang and Crosby, are not having good seasons. And whose fault is that? That's the debate. And Jim Rutherford has always been he's always been a loyal GM to his coaches. Mm-hmm. But we all have the sense here that everybody's waiting for something to happen there, and that's never good. When players start waiting for something to happen, then it's never good.
Yeah. No, that there is that sense of waiting. I got that too.
Well, I mean, with that win, they are in the wild card spot now. I mean, they hop over New Jersey, and arguably the MVP of that team right now could be Marc-Andre Fleury because they have played so many close games, and he's been great. But
I think Marc-Andre Fleury is the MVP of that team, and I don't know. I mean, everybody's talking about Carlisle, but man, that's not a good fit for Kessel. I'm not sure. Is Crosby and Malkin, would they love a Carlisle?
That's why, though. Isn't that why? I mean, isn't that why you need him there?
I heard another name yesterday, and I'm not so sure. He coached Crosby. Well, one name was, I think it's Mike Sullivan, the former New York Rangers assistant who's in Scranton-Wilkes-Barre, but the other name is Guy Boucher. And that would make some sense, but the thing is, Guy Boucher, in a sense, is almost like Mike Johnson. He's a guy who's very self-conscious about the defensive end of the ice, and I think they really need a coach who will emphasize offense, and that's why Carlisle makes a little bit of sense because that's what he did in Toronto. It was to his detriment because the Leafs' defense was so bad, but with weapons like Crosby, Malkin, and the offensive guys that they have, I think that would be more beneficial to that team than having a guy who's so structured that it's limiting Crosby and Malkin.
Yeah, I think Carlisle's still the better fit, although Mike Sullivan would probably love the job because then what'll even out for him is the bad power play years with the Rangers would then start to become good power play years for him in Pittsburgh.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, it's going to be fun to watch unless you're getting fired in a situation. But otherwise, it'll be interesting to keep an eye on. Remember, without the buzz, guys, it is just hockey. We'll be back again tomorrow. Enjoy tonight's games.